Welcome to our mid-innings coverage of the finals between India and Australia being currently played at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. I'm Esha Hanspal. The record five-time champions have laid the platform for a sixth ODI World Cup title. And how exactly will the Aussies have bundled out India for 240 in the summit clash? Virat Kohli and KL Rahul scored fighting half-centuries on a slow track. But regular wickets did not allow the men in blue to finish with a flourish. Australia's skipper Pat Cummins won the toss and elected to field first after a glittering opening ceremony. Rohit Sharma once again gave India a brisk start, but Shubman Gill fell early to Mitchell Starc. Virat Kohli came out with intent and smoked Starc for 3 back-to-back boundaries. Sharma and Kohli shared a stand of 46 runs before Australia dealt a double blow to the men in blue. Sharma fell for 47 in the 10th over, and 3 balls later Shreyas Iyer, who had scored 2 back-to-back centuries, was dismissed for 4. India were on the back foot with 82 for 3 in the 11th over. Kohli and KL Rahul started to rebuild the innings with a stand of 67 runs, but Kohli departed soon after completing his half-century. Rahul too completed his 50 but got out on a 66, leaving India reeling on 203 for 6 in the 42nd over. The men in blue could only manage to hit 2 boundaries in between the 10th and the 40th over. Astounding figure there. 6 Indian batters could not get into double figures as India set a target of 241 to Australia. Starc was the pick of the bowlers with figures of 3 for 55. And on that note, I'm going to go across to Mr. Whatmore, who is with us in the studios. Also joining us live from the Narendra Modi Stadium will be Digvijay Singh, WION Sports editor. But first, let me go across to Dav and ask him. I know you're always giving a disclaimer that any predictions I give, they're obviously subject to change depending on conditions. However, did we expect that scoreline, Dav?
No, not really. I expected a bit more, but I can feel the doom and gloom. But please don't get doom and gloom too soon. It's going to be a very difficult ask to get 241 chasing that total, and I think it could be another thriller. It's not going to be easy, and it'll be a battle of who can hold their nerve, I think.
Dav, we discussed this in the pre-match show as well. This stadium seems to have seen not very high scores, at least in the last couple of matches there. At least the one between India and Pakistan that we saw. India still went ahead and won that game. And you did mention it could be a tough outing for Australia as they go into bat now after this.
Yeah, that's right. Look, the Pakistan match, Pakistan clearly underscored. They were going really well until they lost that partnership between the captain and vice captain, and then they just could not, they just couldn't recover. But they should have got a lot more runs, and so the pass score on this ground, you were saying 230 something?
Yeah, around 237.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. This pitch for sure. Okay, but a red clay pitch, probably another surface that's a little bit harder. You would easily expect a lot more than this.
Before I go over to Digvijay and ask him about how the crowds reacted to the lack of those 4s and 6s, Dav, I want to understand from you, how do you think the pitch was behaving today?
Well, that's right. It's difficult. It was very slow pitch, and not just slow. It was a little bit uneven as well, I think. It wasn't coming on, that's for sure. When you gave us that stat about 2 boundaries between the 11th over and the 40th over, what does that say? It says it's really difficult. And when you consider the last 3 games India played was a semi-final, they scored 34s, 19 sixes. Then they played, before that, Netherlands, Netherlands associate team, 37 4s and 16 sixes. South Africa, 35 4s, 6 sixes. Today, 13 4s, 3 sixes. These boys, I felt for them, the batters for India. I really felt for them because they're used to playing on pitches that enables that to happen, but it wasn't today.
A word on the way Australia bowled today and fielded today.
Oh, the fielding was, to me, the fielding was the feature of this, you know. It was an incredible...
That really impresses you.
Yeah, look, I have to say that, you know, I take your hat off to these guys who saved many runs. A lot of balls that were going for boundaries, that was a big dive and a stretch and stopped it going. You know, every time that happened, there was 2 runs saved. So you could easily try and, you know, get a figure of how many runs that was saved, and I'll tell you, it would be decisive.
Digvijay, let me go across to you now. I hope you didn't really have to walk too far away from the stadium. Assuming the stadium was slightly quieter, as one would have expected, not too many boundaries there that Indian fans were expecting today. What was the mood like? What did you expect there to happen, and how were the viewers what were they making of this particular innings?
Stunned silence. That's what Pat Cummins said, didn't he? He said, I've got the boys who can stun this crowd into silence. And that's what they did. That's what they did. That's what they did. But, you know, jokes apart, you know, a lot of people think it's over. It's not over. This is not a good pitch. I just think that the spectacle that we've had in this World Cup, this is a disgrace, this pitch. And it's not over. I'm just going to go back to the start of the Indian innings. New ball, fresh, Rohit Sharma attacks, right? But then he gets out, Shreyas Iyer gets out at the end of the 10th over. The next boundary, KL Rahul, short ball from Maxwell, I think, laps it for 4. And that stretch between overs 11 to 40, guess who was batting? Virat Kohli, KL Rahul, Surya Kumar Yadav. It's not going to be easy for Australia. You know, it's a bit like that England game. You just don't know. And I think, you know, the cricket romantic in me is going back 4 years to Lords. The score that day was 241. And you thought, oh, England going to get here easy. But it's not. India just need to contain Australia in that first 10. They have Bumrah, they have Shami. If they can sort of get Australia to sort of not explode and sort of, I think head is important for Australia. If they can sort of contain him, they're in this fight. Because it's what, 6 in the evening, no dew as of now. Give it a go.
A lot of Indian fans will be hoping there'll be no dew, and I think if it does, it'll take a little bit of time to come down. But I have to say, looking at Rohit Sharma's innings, without his contribution, this total would be a lot less, you know, and it appears as though the best time to bat will be against the new ball. And what normally is the case, chasing a score in the second innings, over this tournament, I think it's going to be reversed a little bit. Similar to the way Australia attacked their run chase last week against South Africa, I think there'll be something similar here. So there'll be some fireworks, I think, in that first 10 overs, simply because when the ball's newer, it's easier to hit and there's less protection in the outfield.
Dav, also taking off from what you just mentioned, Pat Cummins during his pitch report and during the toss, he said he's elected to field first because he expects the dew to play a part there, thereby making it easier for Team Australia to bat second. Do you think that sounded a little ominous? Do you see that happening perhaps?
Well, he wouldn't be saying that unless there's some evidence. Surely, you know, there is intelligence there. A lot of people will be able to give information. And if they happen to be around themselves, maybe, you know, I don't think they were training there because India was training last night, then that statement just doesn't get plucked out of the air and say, oh yeah, we'll bat second because of dew. I'm sure he would have got some intelligence, some intel, but it's left to be seen whether that in fact happens.
I want to go across to Digvijay now and ask him, Digvijay, you witnessed that beautiful bowling and fielding performance by Team Australia. How was it viewing it first hand, especially the fielding department there? Do you think they were brilliant? Because how we see it on TV, we really catch different camera angles. We don't really see the entire cohesive play come into action. Do describe for us how it was. Do you think it was the Aussie bowling attack that actually curtailed India to that total? Or do we attribute it completely to the pitch there?
You know, I'll just take you in the last 5 overs. If you were watching on television, I'm sitting at where sort of fine leg is, right? Where fine leg is if the bowling is from the other end, exactly there. So the way they were bowling to Surya Kumar Yadav, and he was primed to go, right? He was primed to sort of explode in the last 3 and sort of take India towards 250. But they kept bowling slow cutters into the pitch and didn't give him any pace to work with. That's how difficult this pitch is. I haven't seen too many games, and Dav, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen too many games in this World Cup. We've got reverse swing in the 40th, 41st over, which is what we saw in that over from to Jadeja, the over where he got out. So Australia bowled very well. They've realized there was nothing in the pitch. Initially, they were sort of defensive. They were banging it in. And you saw the beauty of Rohit Sharma. You know, it sort of took me back to Brendan McCullum in 2015. Didn't change his approach. Decided, I'm going to go for it. But Shubman Gill, the way he was sort of hurried into that shot, got out. But someone like a Virat Kohli who was so set to sort of chop that on that when Cummins came on, that showed the slowness of the pitch. I think a word on Pat Cummins, I think one of sensational bowling performance. If you're a captain of Australia, a captain of any team, this is the kind of performance which lifts the team. He was absolutely brilliant. Instead of, with Hazelwood and Stark going for runs at the start, Cummins pulled it back. His first 5 went for 14. He was absolutely sensational. But it was gripping, it was holding. There were lots of false shots from the batters, and that's something which sort of gives me hope. The dew won't come down right now. It will come at some stage if it comes. But India have the bowlers, and we've always realized that the damage against Australia you have to do in those first 10 to 15. Remember what Afghanistan did. Just go back to the game Dav mentioned, South Africa at Eden Gardens. Yes, that pitch took turn, but Australia at one stage were cruising. They just about barely got 213 in the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to give some hope to a lot of Indian supporters here in WION. You know, there's a lot of long faces and glum faces, but no need, not yet. I know that everyone wants to get 300, but you know, the pitch didn't allow that to happen. And it's left to be seen whether India wins or not. If India does not win this game, then I think there'll be some hard questions, mind you, about the surface that was provided. But at the moment, it's going to be a difficult task for the Australians to achieve that target. But I think it could be a real thriller.
I have a point to make. I have a point to make as well on this. Can I make that point, Esha?
Yeah, sure. We can hear you.
No, when we're talking about 240, but hang on, who's batting is Australia. They've not been the best, have they? They've not been their best. They've also been a very shaky sort of team. They almost messed up a chase of 213 the other day. So I'm saying, and then the Indian bowling isn't exactly not the best. They are the best bowling attack out there. If there's any team, I'm saying let's look at that template of that England game. That England game was when we felt, oh, hang on, India 230, you never know. But then they ended up winning by 100 runs. So it's going to be a proper test for these Aussie batters. And as I was saying just a short while back, I just think that first 10, if Bumrah can keep it quiet, and if they can keep head quiet, I think they have a very good chance of sort of building pressure. Because you also asked me, Esha, about the crowd. The crowd was pretty silent. But at times the crowd sort of got into its groove. The DJ tried his or her best to sort of lift the crowd. Shah Rukh Khan was in the stands. They kept playing his songs from his recent movie, Zinda Banda. Even that didn't sort of raise the crowd. But I'll tell you what raises the crowd. Few early wickets.
The boundaries and perhaps now the early wickets. You know, Dav, one can perhaps say the likes of us perhaps here in the studios would not want to jump the gun because the match is not really over yet. We want to see it played to the last ball, and honestly all is not lost. 240, it's not a bad total at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a competitive total.
That's what I'm saying.
So why this assumption of an imminent loss? Why do we automatically assume if it's not touched 300, if we've not seen those boundaries by Team India, it's perhaps not India's showing?
It's because avid supporters of India want to see their team win by 150 runs or by 8 wickets. You know, that's a normal reaction with, you know, very passionate supporters. Of both countries. You know, nobody really wants to see your team win in a real thriller because it could go either way. And it's bad for the heart as well.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody wants their team to win easily. But you never know. This could still be an easy victory for India.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an easy victory for Australia, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be won in 20 overs. It's not going to be won in 30 overs. It's going to be won after that, and it's going to take a lot of mental strength and resolve because there's going to be some pressure there, just like South Africa.
So after 20th over, where do you think Australia are getting this by? I have to ask you this.
If Australia win,
Yeah.
Australia might lose.
So
You know,
say
if
they
Australia
should
win,
be able to get this by the 40th over?
If Australia win, it's going to be easily minimum 40 overs, I reckon.
40 overs.
Minimum. You know, it'll be more than that, yeah.
I just request the team to pull up that innings progression graphics for our viewers just to see how those 50 overs panned out. The first 10 overs, the run rate is good. They managed to score good runs starting off. And then it falls to a paltry 3.5, 3.7. Losing wickets in regular intervals in those 3 overs, 4.5, and of course the last 10 overs.
Esha, what we're saying, 240 is not a easy target to get.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty decent effort,
Yeah.
given the conditions.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should be, you know, critical of the batsmen. They were trying really hard, and Kohli and Rahul, brilliant players. You know, they struggled. And they could easily have just said, oh, it's too hard, lift their head and get out. But they fought. And that's one of the reasons why there's only 1 wicket falling, you know, in each of those phases, second, third and fourth, and allowed you to still lose 5 wickets in the last phase, but still get a very useful 43 runs. So, you know, the batsmen actually worked really hard, did a pretty good job, in my opinion.
How could there be such disparity in performance between the first to 10th and the 10th to the 20th overs in terms of the runs scored?
Simply because the 2 new balls represents an opportunity for that ball to come on a little bit quicker to the bat. It's a slow pitch. With a brand new ball, it's difficult for them to bowl slower balls. Can be done, but very difficult. And when you've got an aggressor like Rohit Sharma, who's been in good form, jumping all over even good balls, you know, then it's not that easy for the bowlers. They were under pressure. But once Rohit Sharma got out, and then Virat Kohli was setting his stalls out for a long innings, right? He wanted to bat for another 40 overs. Sadly, it didn't happen. He was unlucky. Same with KL Rahul. He was setting his stall out to bat long. Didn't happen. He was unlucky. But it's the easiest time to bat in the batting first, in the first 10 overs, simply because the ball's harder, it comes on a little bit quicker, and there's less protection in the outfield. So, you know, your output is greater, and they got, what do they get? 80 runs. Yeah. Valuable 80 runs.
Valuable 80 runs.
Valuable, yeah.
It really looked like going India's way initially when it just started on. One hadn't closely looked at the pitch. I know we were talking about it and you mentioned that this pitch looks a little slow. It's not a hard pitch. You can see marks over there on the pitch. But just by looking at the number of runs scored in those crucial 10 overs, it looked like it could go India's way today. Yeah,
it was. I mean, 80 for 2, you'd take that any time, wouldn't you? And it really took another brilliant catch to get rid of Rohit Sharma. You know, that was another, you know, match turning catch, to be honest with you. If Rohit Sharma kept batting for another 5 or 6 overs, then, you know, it would have been really difficult for the Australians to keep their focus, you know, and not drop your shoulders sort of thing. I know they don't want to do that, but when an individual's hitting and keep on getting runs, difficult to do that. So, you know, it took a really good catch to get him out.
So Rohit's wicket was rather more match-turning than
absolutely crucial
than Virat's,
well,
or
Virat
perhaps
was,
even KL Rahul's. Or Rahul's?
That's a different phase and a different strategy by those two. They had to bat long. They weren't going to, you know, to get runs really quickly. One is because there was more protection, and it became harder to bat.
All right, let's also take a look at this interesting piece of statistics that our team has pulled up here. It is the lowest score defended in ODI World Cup finals. The first one is 183. This was by Pakistan. Then by India, Pakistan defended at 249 for the loss of 6 against England. Australia 253, Australia 281, West Indies 286 against England. Would you say that the score today would perhaps feature on this list? It's a little tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, every chance, but none of those were defended at Ahmedabad. Look, I think it could easily make that chart, you know. Again, you know, we're discussing pros and cons of, you know, chasing down a target of 241, and there's proof there that, you know, defending lower totals is, you know, is absolutely can be done.
Yeah.
So this everything is relative to the surface you're playing on, and you know, trying to maximise the percentage of risk taking by the chasing team, Australia. That'll be done in that first 10 overs. I think you can see, you know, a good indication of how this game's going to go.
Who impressed you the most in the bowling attack today for Australia?
Oh, Cummins for sure.
Cummins.
You know, I think he was the one that led from the front, and the one that, you know, you would probably not think. You know, I was thinking Hazelwood. You know, he's got the better of a few of the Indian batsmen, but not so. Stark actually started, you know, again on the bat, but he came back okay. Zampa actually did a half decent job.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get angry at Stark today. I think he
Yeah.
came against a couple of good players with less protection. So I think they all did, you know, pretty good. But for me, Pat Cummins was the main man. Yeah.
Okay, Digvijay, final thoughts. Did you at any point in time saw Team India waver a little bit? One is not used to seeing the likes of Virat, Rohit on an occasion like this not get that ton, or at least the upward side of that half century. Did you sense any nervousness from any of these batters when they walked out the crease? Perhaps did they look, I know you were perhaps seated a little far from the crease there, but did you sense any sort of anxiety that perhaps they didn't do enough, or are they looking confident?
No, I didn't actually. If you look at when the wickets were falling, each time messages were coming in, they were reassessing the pitch. And I'll tell you an indicator of what I think is a good score is that Surya Kumar Yadav was there, right? And he's supposed to be the one who's going to get those quick runs. But Surya Kumar had Kuldeep at the other end, and he was content for Kuldeep to play out 3 overs at a stretch and get just 1 run, which is at the end of the over. I think the message had come, take it as deep as possible. And I think, you know, the reaction of Kohli when he got out was a lot, because he fought very, very hard. Just because of, I just want to go back to what Dave was saying about Rohit Sharma. It reminded me of Kapil Dev's catch of Viv Richards in the 1983 final. Rohit was going exactly like Viv, wasn't he? And sort of trying to flare the bowlers all over the park. But no, Esha, they fought very, very hard. And these batters who are there, who've not been able to score those runs, are batters who are of the highest caliber. That's Virat Kohli, KL Rahul. I just think for Australia, yes, we're talking of Head and Warner at the start, but a lot is going to come down to Steven Smith. You know, we haven't seen him, but these are the kind of wickets where they need him and Labuschagne to sort of navigate that minefield, especially when the dew isn't there, when the Indian bowlers sort of, Jadeja is going to be wicket to wicket. We saw what Shamshi did to them. Kuldeep has probably seen those videos as well. So it's going to be tough. I agree with that. They're not winning this in 30 overs. They're not winning. So if it gets close, then it depends on who has the best upper tier over there.
Okay, all right, Digvijay, we are completely out of time. We will also let you go back into the stadium and get a bit of that entertainment. I know the crowds are being entertained.
Get something to eat.
Yeah, get something to eat. You've had a lot to walk today, coming out and joining us live on the show here. Okay, well, Dab, with that, we'll have to wrap up this edition of WION World of Cricket. But we'll be with you through the course of this match, and we will also catch you during the post-match edition of WION World of Cricket. Stay tuned.
India's global.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from